Just take one and pass it along there if you would. Just want to highlight some acronyms that will help couples understand things they can do to show love and to show respect. So on that first page there, how does a husband spell love to his wife? It's spelled couple, and he talks about what those are. C for closeness. Am I always remembering to move toward her and accept her need to talk and connect with me to be reassured of my love? These are questions you have to ask yourself. Am I always remembering to move towards her and know that she's got this need to connect, a need to talk, and a need for me to reassure her that I love her? You know, the old Bill Cosby routine, you know, I told my wife I loved her when we got married. How many times does she have to hear that? You know, well, she's got to hear it every day, frequently during the day, okay? Our children are 31, 38, and soon to be 40. And when we talk to them on the phone, almost every time, we will say, or they will say, I love you. Well, if I say it to my kids, I certainly say it to my wife on a frequent basis, okay? Openness. Do I share my thoughts with her? And am I sure I'm not resisting her efforts to draw me out? When she says to you, what do you think about that? You know, sometimes my wife will say that, and I say, I don't think a lot about anything. You know, I'm just kind of going through life. So, but how do you feel about that? And I have to sit down and think sometimes, how do I really feel about that? And to share those feelings with her. For the first 18 years of our marriage, I did not share much with her. And one of the things that she said to me when she came over to Africa and we were able to spend some time together, she said, you have to talk to me. You have to communicate with me. Well, she said, there's no reason to stay together. Well, the reason was we had 3 children. There was a reason to stay together, and I did really love her. It just took, 12,000 miles to hit me over the head with that. But I realized that I had to talk because, believe it or not, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, I don't talk much at home. I talk a lot out, but I don't at home. And I have a feeling that most guys are that way. I don't talk much when I get home, okay? And she'll sit down and say, well, how do you think about that? How do you feel about that? And I have to do that. I have to communicate with her. Understanding. Am I careful not to try to fix her every time she talks about one of her concerns or problems? Am I remembering that she is an integrated personality and whatever happens affects all of her, especially her emotions? Peacemaking. Am I always willing to resolve issues? And am I careful never to say, let's just drop it and move on? I will tell you that when my wife and I would have had a difficult day, for me, I can drop it, go to bed, get up the next day, and go do things. And we would lay down in bed, and she would say, you're not going to go to sleep without resolving this, are you? Yeah, why? What's the problem with that? Well, I knew that I was not going to bed that night without resolving these issues. And so we would, and I didn't want to talk about those things then. And so what we came to do is to say, she would say, we need to talk about such and such. And I would say, you're right, we do. But can we talk about it later on this evening? Or can we talk about it tomorrow? Can we talk about it when the kids go to bed or whatever? And that would be fine. That would satisfy her, knowing that I would keep my commitment to talk about it after the kids went to bed. But if I said, no, I just don't want to talk about it, then that was not the right answer. But if I said, not now, I just got home from work, I'm really wrestling with something or whatever, but I promise you we will talk about it after the kids go to bed or whatever, that's fine. Okay, there's a recognition that she needs to have that thing talked about. Loyalty, do I constantly look for ways to tell her that I will be loyal to her forever? She is the one love of my life, the only woman for me. And she is, mine is, and I'm sure yours is as well. And esteem, do I always let her know that I treasure her and put the highest value on her as a person? Do I let her know what she does and thinks are important to me? Does she know that I couldn't possibly do without her? And I can't, okay? Not just because I can't cook, but I can't do without her. Okay, I'd have been Brian handing pizza out to my kids for 3 days if my wife was gone. Although when my wife would go back to Pennsylvania to visit her mom or relatives, she always left me 3 casseroles before she left, so that was really good. I was glad for that. But yeah, I couldn't possibly do without her. Let's flip on the other side. How do you spell respect for husbands? It's an acronym, CHAIRS. Conquest. Am I always standing behind him and letting him know I support him in his work and endeavors in his field? remember E.V. Hill, a pastor, before he became a pastor, lost his job, and he came home and told his wife he lost his job, and she said, let me make the best meal I can make for you. Rather than saying, I mean, you lost your job. Why did you do that? You know, let me make the best meal I can make for you. I will support you in whatever happens. Hierarchy. Do I let him know I respect and appreciate his desire to protect and provide for me and the family? What have I said recently to communicate that? I appreciate that you get up and go to work every day faithfully. Listen, there are guys that don't. There are guys that don't. Authority. Have I gone on record that because he is the primary responsibility for me, even to die for me, I recognize him as having the primary authority? Do I let him be the leader? How have I helped in that regard recently? One of the questions I have to ask God when I get to heaven, first on my list, God, why did you make some women who are just cholerics and some men who are phlegmatics? In other words, why did you make women who are leaders, natural-born leaders, and they marry a guy who goes, whatever, you know, and they're always frustrated. You know, they want the guy to be the leader, but he's not, and they are. And so we have to constantly say, then you have to let him lead. But he doesn't do, then you have to let him do that. And I want to say, God, why didn't you just make all of us men leaders? And the women say, oh, wonderful. Well, I didn't do that. And one of the first questions I want to ask is, why is that way? I think it's because men, we have some new things to learn about leadership, and women, we have some things to learn about submitting to leadership. Insight. Do I trust his ability to analyze things and offer solutions and not just depend on my intuition? Relationship. Do I spend shoulder-to-shoulder time with him whenever I can? Do I let him know that I am his friend as well as his lover? Do we just spend time together? Now, I know that spending time together sometimes, especially in your situation, is probably talking about your children. Children become the primary focus. Children become the primary focus of your relationship. Let's go out to dinner. Why? We're just going to go out to dinner and talk about the children. We can stay home and talk about the children instead of spend money. But they became the primary focus, and they can't be the primary focus. As Brian said this morning, and I appreciated it, and I have said that to him. So I've said, you are a family. Okay? You're a family. You're a family. You're a family. A husband and a wife together are a family. Children are a wonderful addition to the family, but it does not make you a family. You're a family the day you get married. And if God chooses to give you children, that's great. If he doesn't, you're still a family. And your primary thing is always the two of you. And when your children are grown and out of the house, guess who's left? The two of you. And there's too many couples that we've counseled that look at each other when their children are grown and out of the house and go, we have nothing in common. The only thing we had in common was our children. We have nothing in common. Finally, sexuality. Do I honor his need for sexual release even when I don't feel like it? Okay, do you quit having headaches and all those kinds of things? It's the way guys are built, and there's a necessity to honor that. Okay, my tape is running out. How much time do I have, Steve? 2 minutes. I better quit. We're taping these things so that we can replay these and put them on the website, possibly, and things like that. Questions that you have, comments that you have about this. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we're still on the right side of the bed.
No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And Steve, you can just stop the thing anyway. So, what comments?
Okay, now we can talk.
What comments do you have about what?